Welcome to BrotoGP. This is a quick episode on World Superbike's new rule changes. They've introduced a third race, and we've got some strong opinions on that. So let's get this one started.
What's good, everyone? Kevin from BrotoGP here. I got Everett below me. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Which leaves only one option for Rob, which is above me. You could put me in a giant Broto Man sandwich, and I am a happy camper. But who's not a happy camper is pretty much anyone who thinks World Superbike has a chance of recovering next season because they decided to introduce the most asinine rule change I may have ever seen in 25 years of watching motorcycle racing. In a second, Rob, the rule nerd, is going to geek out and basically explain the rule, which is the most interesting part of the rule is the explanation. It will.
Is that really the most interesting part? That's pathetic. I get your point. That's really do.
The whole point, yeah. That's the irony of it.
No, so I'm going to show the press release here on the YouTube video. Essentially, World Superbike has announced that they are adding a short sprint race to the schedule, and it is going to take place Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on the race weekend. So, wait, no, that's not right. No, I fucked it up.
Saturday morning at 11 a.m.
No, the short Sunday morning at 11 a.m. We've got race one on Saturday, like normal, at 2 p.m. for the standard European rounds. Then we have at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning after race one a short sprint race, and then standard race 2, normal race distance at 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. So I think what a lot of people are wondering is this actually going to spice up the weekend? Is it going to make people actually buy tickets and show up to the races on Sunday? And from what we've seen on internet forums and comments on social media and everything, the firm answer is no.
So, yeah, but awkward silence. I mean, the quick one, right? My initial reaction, my gut reaction, being a former club sprint racer, I did endurance racing too. But sprint racing has the appeal and the allure of it being 7 to 8 laps, where it can be a crapshoot if somebody that's generally a mid-pack guy can get out there and they don't have to dial in a setup where their tires last a full 25 laps or whatever, then maybe they have a shot at winning. So I think there's that we can roll the dice and you never know, but we all know the reality, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very good point. Like the Pirellis are not exactly tires that are known for lasting race distance and going ham at the same time. I mean, we've talked about this in other full episodes with GP, right? It seems like in certain instances you have to save the tires and you have to not go full out. But in World Superbike, it doesn't freaking matter, right? The variability introduced by the tires and is not going to overcome the skill of Jonathan Rea. And that's my main point for this rule change, right? If World Superbike is looking to spice up the races, they're not, by introducing a short race, they're not going to get Johnny Rea to not win it.
No. So my point is that World Superbike thought everyone thinks our product is crap, so we're going to give you more of it. Like on the episode of The Simpsons when they move to Cypress Creek and Bart gets put in the remedial class and hopefully they take out their circles of paper and their safety pencils. They're going to finish their work on the letter A this week. And Bart points out that if we're behind our classmates, so we're going to go slower than them to catch up, right? And he's like, hoo-hoo. And then all the kids go nuts, right? Larry, Melvin, Gary, Dot, and Gordy, I believe, were the names of those kids. But
that's so awesome that you remember that.
Yeah, exactly. But so problem, no one watches our product. Everyone thinks it's terrible. Solution, shovel more of it down our throats. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? This sandwich sucks. So my answer is to give you more of this shitty sandwich, not figure out how to cook the meat better, find better bread, find things. It's still a shit sandwich. If you hand me a shit sandwich and your answer is to drop more diarrhea on it and call it sauce, I don't want to eat it.
That's true, man. It's gimmicky like they did with this thing where they did the reverse grid thing it's just gimmicky, and it's another gimmicky thing. I mean, again, I on first glance got really excited about it. Then when you think it through, you just know that the talent is just going to still dominate whatever. It doesn't matter if it's eight laps or 25. If it was 3, it could be a matter of luck and, capitalization of the first lap. But it's not 3. It's still 8. So...
Well, actually, they haven't actually released the race distance yet. They've just said sprint race.
We're assuming
so
8,
if it's
8 to 10. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. If we go, say, half race distance, that still puts it at 10 to 12 laps,
12,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, the shortest races of the year, I think, are 19 laps, and the longest are 25. If you go quarter race distance, that actually puts it in line with what we would call an amateur race or a club race, right? 6 laps. And 6 laps is definitely short enough for something crazy to happen. But at the same time, I've got plenty of data right here that I'm about to break out that shows you that Johnny Rea can win from anywhere on the grid in 6 laps. So let's actually, I can't go that far and say 6 laps, but I do have the data.
19.
11.
19 is the longest, right?
19 was the longest of it. It took him to get to the front. But all right, so I've got some data here. Let's start with the charts. So I actually spent the time today and looked up all of Johnny Rea's lap charts. So, and we'll compare race 1 to race 2.
Nothing more boring than what you just said. I spent my day looking at Jonathan Rea lap charts.
That's true. And I'm doing it for our
How are you still alive?
Followers.
How are
I
you
don't
still
know.
alive?
It's like I have a job where I have to sit at a computer the entire day, and I'm just used to it by now. No, so race 1, right? Before World Superbike introduced the gimmick, this would have been both races. They introduced the gimmick of the grid reshuffle to kind of spice up race 2. And to be fair, it has changed things just a tiny bit. So in race 1 here, Johnny Rea never...
It's not a total failure.
90%.
God, it's the Simon Crafar compliment once again. To be fair, he didn't suck that bad.
Yes.
No, so we got race 1. Most of Johnny Rea's races, he starts near the very front of the race. By the first or second lap, he's already in podium position, and then he just finishes out the race like that. So if we actually look at the chart, or the raw numbers, his average finish for race 1 is 1.4. His average grid position for the first race is 2.25. It takes him 1 lap on average to be in the front of the pack, and he on average leads 14.5 laps. So that's race 1, right? Without the grid reshuffle, we would expect exactly that for race 2. In race 2, things get a little bit more interesting because his average starting position is actually 8.25. So he starts a little bit further back. It therefore takes him a couple more laps to make it to the front, to make it into podium positions. He's got 1 race 2 in here where he doesn't finish. He's got 1 race 2 in here where he gets knocked back all the way down to 14th place. Those affect the averages slightly. But if we look at the averages again, in race 2, his average starting position of 8.25, it on average takes him 11.4 laps to get to the front of the race. And he still leads 6 laps.
Even if we run a half race distance sprint lap and grid reshuffle him to 8th, on the average is that he'll still win.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Those are the averages. He will win more than half the time.
This is like your girlfriend tells you, like, you're not like warming me up enough. You're just coming. We're just going right to the sex, and your answer to her complaint about more foreplay is to just fuck harder. It's not the answer at all. Like, I don't understand how anyone look at this rule change.
It's fuck longer.
Rob is just some guy.
I was just about to say, you stole what I was going to say. Is Kev, I got a question for you. Do you think Rob did more analysis of this grid reshuffle than Dorna and World Superbike did? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he did. And it took Rob, it took you all of 10 minutes to look at that?
It took me like an hour. It took me like an hour to make all the charts.
Rob is the engineer of a podcast where in the first 6 minutes we've referenced The Simpsons, shit sandwiches with diarrhea sauce, and how not to fuck your girlfriend.
South Park joke.
And South Park, right? And he's still eminently more qualified than the actual technical director of World Superbike in implementing these rules.
Well, it's probably some Italian artist. It's some artist guy who's like, oh, we'll do it. It'll be beautiful. It'll be great. We'll do a grid reshuffle. It'll be dynamic and exciting. Did you have anything to prove out what would really happen? Well, nothing fucking changed. Well, we already called that, though.
So they got a small change out of the gimmick, right? There is a slightly spicier racing for the first half of the race on average, and there may have been some instances where Johnny Rea was not able to win because of the grid reshuffle. It's not a huge difference. His average finish in race 2 is 1.7. His average finish in race 1 is 1.4. Right? So he wins slightly less in race 2 because of the grid reshuffle. And I think that's what Dorna is going for. They're trying to kind of appease the people that don't want the reshuffle anymore, while also introducing another change to make the racing more spicy. The problem that I have with all of this is it's not going to be a large enough change to overcome the expertise of both Jonathan Rea and Kawasaki, and they're just still going to sweep the title in a very boring way. I don't want to see them win races like this anymore.
Yep, and it continues to turn the series into the gimmick series.
Yeah, it's just adding another
problematic. It's another gimmick, and the gimmick. When you add gimmicks, you dilute. Look, World Superbike is not Street Fighter 2. You can't just make it Championship Edition and then make it Turbo Edition and then make it Turbo Hyper Fighting. Dude. You're Mortal Kombat 1 at best, World Superbike. You are not Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting.
Mortal Kombat was pretty good, though, man.
No, go back and play Mortal Kombat. First of all, you can't even combo in Mortal Kombat 1. So it's if you go back and play Mortal Kombat 1, it's
number one. He's talking Mortal Kombat 2. 2 was not
legit.
Just incremental. It was a whole leap and bound.
Yeah.
Fucking skulls and shit.
You can't just keep adding new gimmicks and new names. Like, this isn't Dragon Ball. You're not this isn't even my final form. Your form sucks, dog.
Yeah. So what's World Superbike 2 then? What's the revamped, improved edition that's legit? Like, holy fuck, they got it right. What's the format?
I mean, I'm of the same.
Rob has the answers to this more than I do.
My opinion hasn't changed for the past 2-3 years. Spec ECU, right? They tried to make Mortal Kombat 2 out of World Superbike with the concession regulations that they have in place right now.
With the engines,
so any team that doesn't get enough podiums and enough high up finishes, they're allowed to modify the concession parts, right? They can modify swing arm, they can modify engine parts.
Whatever.
Any team that does podium and does get does have too high of finishes is not allowed to modify the go fast parts of a motorcycle. So that honestly, I think we can attribute a lot of Yamaha's increase in performance to those rule changes. But we also have the gimmicks. Those regulation changes, I think, are working. The gimmicks are working in a tiny, tiny margin. Get rid of the gimmicks. Focus on more massive regulation changes that make it harder for the money that Kawasaki is spending to make them go faster.
The gimmicks are bold new graphics. That's what it is. The World Superbike is a 2001 F3, and they just put bold new graphics on it. You gotta fuel inject this bad boy, make it F4i. You know what I'm saying?
We got a new sticker on there, +5 horsepower.
Yeah, exactly. I think a huge problem with World Superbike is they have an image issue right now. And so here's what Rob said: the rule changes are working. The concessions are working, but what are the concessions? They're not sexy, and they're not weird. They're not a story. They're just a thing that exists in the background that we don't really know about.
They're incremental, yeah.
And to your point, that was published far less than the rev limit rule changes that also came into effect.
But what happens is the gimmicks they're a gimmick. They're sold. They're talked about with press releases. It's it's actually bad for the brand because it's diluting the brand by showing that it needs something to be bigger and better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, why is MotoGP so good the last couple of years. Not these massive changes, but the biggest, most massive change was the Michelin tire change, but constant incremental changes that started with CRT. And then look, that was kind of a branding thing.
There was a reason. That was a dark time, but they had a reason based on the economy and other things and trying to get
the reason was Spec ECU. That was always the goal.
That's how
of
they
CRT.
got to Spec ECU.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and they got there, which kudos to them. It took them. It was a dark time, but they got there, and then they came out of the fire. It was surprising, but
yeah. And in the last episode, I talked about how Jordi Torres at one of his first MotoGP rounds ever was able to post a lap that was 1.4 seconds off of Marc Marquez's fastest lap. That level of competitiveness of even the slowest person on the grid, we can attribute a lot of that to the Michelin tires and to the Spec ECU. World Superbike already has tires that function a lot like the Michelins. They don't last race distance. If you push them too hard, they fall off, i.e. Tom Sykes. The Pirellis are already there to breed good racing. Yet the electronics that Kawasaki can be running in their World Superbike can actually be of a higher spec than what MotoGP is using right now. And it's absurd because Dorna knows that Spec ECU works in GP. We know that it works in British Superbike. There are probably many other national series where Spec ECU is working, and it's not implemented in World Superbike.
So one thing that constantly got brought up is that like Dorna over the past couple of years is they don't really want World Superbike. They're trying to kill World Superbike. All of the problems was Dorna, right? Hold on. And I always argued that why they wouldn't do that. They're not going to kill their own brand or their own property. This is the first time I actually think, wow, maybe they are actually trying to kill it. They're trying to make it so absurd that everyone just throws their fucking hands up and leaves.
I mean, to be fair, we say Dorna, but we should probably also include the FIM because I know they have hands in making the regulations, right? There's also I don't know the name of it, but I'm sure like there's an IRTA and an MSMA that has their hand in the regulations as well inside World Superbike. It's a collection of people. We're just using the word Dorna to talk about all of them, and I don't agree with the approach that they're taking to this series.
Yeah, I mean,
say something there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kev.
To me, it's just like and I've made a lot of jokes ever, but it's just people don't like your product, so we're going to give you more of it.
Yeah. It's
like
a strange thing.
It's diminishing returns, right? Like I've even joked like now that we're how far into the season with the extra races. I'm like, damn, this is a long fucking season. And they want to add more races to MotoGP, right? And I was kind of thinking today, like, man, that's a lot of races. Like, you're getting burnout.
Yeah.
And, right? Yeah. You can get that. Like, the certain number of races is perfect. People are, like, I think the 2-race format in World Superbike is a problem. Now we're going to add 3. It's already just, we're diluting the meaning of winning a race. Like, what's a problem in American baseball? It's too many fucking games, dog. Yeah. It's too many games. It's too many fucking games.
It's like 163 or something.
It's too many games. You've taken the meaning out of the games. Why does American football so popular? Because every game matters.
Yeah.
Titanically.
What is it, 12 in American football before the playoffs?
No, it's 14. It's 14.
Yeah. 14. Okay. Actually, Kev, Kev, to your point, I know you're going to jump in here, but so that's the other thing that we don't know about this regulation change. Is the sprint race going to be half the points? Is it going to be full points? That's a good point. Right? If a win for that is worth 25 points, then Johnny Rea is for sure going to bust out on those things, and he's definitely going to win it to seal up the title. And that'll mean that titles can be won earlier. The end of the season could be more bullshit. Like
they've got to be they've got to be weighted according to the laps that are involved. If it's half laps, it's half points, right? I mean, that's the mentality.
If it's a full, like, it's easier to figure out how to make a bike go really fast for a shorter number of laps. The longer the laps go, the more difficult it becomes to make as long as there's no pitting, how to make the gas last, how to make the tires last, how to make the rider's physical fitness last. It goes back to the Pareto principle I've mentioned a million times. if I was a team and this third race was worth equal points, I'd focus exclusively on the third race because the progressive nature of the points means if you win a ton of this like mini race, it's more valuable than the points you win in the long races because it's less energy to focus setting up winning this one. And if the points are similar and they're still progressive in terms of, you know, a win is worth, you know, a win in a third is worth more than 2 seconds type of thing, like then you're going to have a problem where people stop caring and start focusing on other races. And if you have a team that says, look at satellite teams. Maybe a fucking satellite team or these mid-level teams just say like, look, man, we can't compete on a full race because it's so expensive to hire good engineers. It's so difficult to program this software. And the amount of testing information required to get a bike to last full races is so hard. We can just focus on this third race. And now you've diluted the meaning of the actual third race, second race of the day, even more because you are shown that teams aren't trying. They're just focusing on that one race.
Yeah, there's a slight positive because because you may get some variability in the results in that second race, but the negative is that the show on Sunday afternoon is now That's right. And that's what World Superbike is lacking. It's lacking their prestige, and this added race is going to make it worse.
It's a dilution, right? It's you know, it's a shit sandwich, but it's really what is it? You're diluting the product by adding a third race, and you're de-emphasizing the other 2 races, and you're going to try and make this the actual primary race to watch, which I actually think it'll be fun to watch just the sprint race now, and I won't even watch the other 2 because I know Johnny Rea is going to win. So why would I watch those?
Which is actually worse. I'll tune in for the 20-minute sprint race and then be on my way. And the problem is, too, you know, a sprint race, I'm going to be able to post a whole race on Instagram.
I was going to play. I was going to play another scenario, right? We love GP. GP is the purest, you know, pinnacle of motorcycle racing. But imagine if they even had the 2-race World Superbike format, which sometimes I got to admit, I've kind of wished there was a Saturday race and a Sunday race. You put all this time and energy and heart and soul. You go to a weekend as a fan to go watch. You pay a bunch of money for a ticket, and you get a 15-minute 2 qualifyings, and you get a 1 fucking hour race, effectively GP. No Moto2 or 3, and it's that, and that's exactly it though. That's the kind of the crescendo. That's the appeal of, wow, I got that hour of bliss, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Is the whole weekend has kind of a linear progression. It builds up, and look at GP. The prestige of qualifying and the excitement there is actually, to me, more interesting than World Superbike Race 1, just because of the spiciness and the flavor that World Superbike
30 laps of fucking procession is boring.
Yeah, but there's and they show the tire changes. We've got like, you know, Marquez screws up occasionally. Occasionally they do 2 bike swaps in there, right? There's a lot of action going on in qualifying that they built up, and that feeds into Sunday more. But when you dilute it across 2.5 races, now you're asking fans to buy either a Saturday ticket or a Sunday ticket.
There's no other major sport that I can think of right now that expects the fan to spend multiple days. Like American, no one goes to practice in football. Sometimes in like UFC and boxing, guys go to the weigh-in, right? But the show is
it's like the pre-party.
But that's the hardcore fan. That's the hardcore fan.
Hardcore fans, right? But rarely
that's the qualifying.
Right. In American baseball, people don't, some people trickle in for batting practice in the beginning and watching guys, dot 80-mile-an-hour fastballs into the bleachers. But in general, no other sport is trying to extend out the show beyond like a 3-hour block.
That's a good point.
And even in football, you don't go on Saturday and party. You just get there hella early and tailgate on Sunday.
Yeah. It's a one-day event. It's a one-day event.
It's a one-day event.
People have families and commitments, and you can't give it a 3-day weekend unless you are just absolutely hardcore and that's your life. And that's just the realization right there, is that the average fan just would never do that.
Yeah, so supposedly there were rumors that like Donington was struggling to sell tickets for Sunday because because Saturday had qualifying and a race, so they were struggling to sell tickets for Sunday because it's just warm up and a race. So
Right.
that could be factoring into why they're adding this race to kind of spice up Sunday. But again, to Kev's point, if you just got everyone to show up on Sunday and didn't worry less about Saturday, then you would someone has done the numbers.
The stands wouldn't be a third less because people only packed one. The show would look more interesting. Like I love it too, right? Like they were trying to say like in GP, right, in Thailand, they were like, don't those bleachers, it's just because they don't want to be in the sun. Like the idea that there were even some seats not covered was a problem. And yet World Superbike is doing the best it can to make sure the stands are never full by making you choose which day you want to watch their series.
So
I love motorcycle racing. I do a podcast with my friends on it. And 2 days 2 days at Sears Point is a lot, and it's like 5 seconds that way.
Yeah, and that's a social event on top of it for you, right?
And my friend was racing there. I'm like, you know what I mean? It was still like, man, on Sunday, me and Evan were like, fuck, what time is it? I gotta go home, dude.
Well, so let's play out this alternate universe. If World Superbike copied, I mean, we know it works with MotoGP. They got qualifying on Saturday. They got racing on Sunday. The format works. It's been around forever. It hasn't changed. People love it. The stands are full. Why does a World Superbike just copy the obvious? The thing that works.
I think that the tracks probably are resistant to it because they are not into losing all those ticket sales for Saturday, right?
What ticket sales? Hold on, that's
they probably have the
thought, but that's a fallacy.
They probably have the Friday numbers, and they think that if they turn Saturday into just qualifying, that they're going to turn Friday into Saturday, and they won't bump Sunday at all, right? It's hypotheticals, right? That someone is going off the numbers and they're not sure because it's never happened before, right? When has World Superbike ever run one race? Did they do it like in the 80s?
But MotoGP makes it work is my point. And if that works for them, why can't it work for World Superbike? And you don't know until you try. And I don't know, bring other things, bring other surrounding pieces, right? Bring other promotional things.
Or move race one back to Sunday morning. Right? Like tell the teams to go F it and say, sorry, like we know you like it better on Saturday because it's easier, and if you crash, like you can still race again on Sunday. But the tracks are having a hard time selling. The show has lost all its prestige. Put the racing back on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, stop crashing.
I mean, and actually like maybe I would probably complain about the sprint race a little bit less if it was a sprint race on Saturday and then 2 full races on Sunday. Only a little bit less.
We figured it out. 2 races, doubleheader still.
Let's just
Sunday,
go full
race.
We're going to do 3 races, and we're going to toss out our worst result. We only score points in 2 races. We're tossing out our worst result.
I like it.
Right. And then we're not going to tell people. Right. Then we're not going to tell people, but every, we're not going to tell people tracks until the first round. We're going to say, oh, by the way, Phillip Island, Monza, Thailand, and Qatar, double points, baby. So you get to toss out your third one, and there's a crapshoot, straight Yahtzee status. Boom, Yahtzee. Is this a double shoot?
It actually, it's
whoever gets 4th place loses all points. Your points are just gone. They don't count. You got 4th. Sorry.
It's the full NASCAR approach, and World Superbike should not be looking at NASCAR for gimmicky ways to spice up the action because they're supposedly still bleeding fans. I mean, I haven't seen numbers. I may be talking out of my ass here, but that series ain't doing so hot. Like Formula One, the series that shall not be named, had double points at the last round, and it impacted the championship one year. And everyone was like, "Why the hell did you do this?" And they got rid of it. Right?
It's very controversial, yeah.
I mean, it's almost a chicken and egg argument, right? If you got the prestige, you don't need the gimmicks. They're trying to get the prestige back by adding the gimmicks and to bring fans back, but it's probably driving some of the fans away.
It's catch-22. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly. But all right, we are way too long on this.
Kev said this on numerous podcasts. If you create the product, The people will come. The sponsors will come. You've said it too. And the format is just broken.
It's not working. Hey, you know that Dorna is selling way more track advertising spots or charging their sponsors more money because now they got 3 things to broadcast on television that people may actually watch. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Stop
Turning everything into how to fucking separate me from my money. Put on something good, and then I will want to give you my money in return.
Just watch it.
Stop making the parking $45 fucking dollars. Stop making the fucking beers $25. Stop making the hot dogs $19. Because now I don't want to go. To your point, Everett, you got a fucking wife and multiple kids. You want to drag both those kids and the wife to 2 days? How fucking expensive is that? The tracks, it's the same thing Rob said. The tracks are just trying to do what they do to keep you at the track the longest because that's when they make the money. The whole fucking thing is all predicated on just separating me from my money at every fucking stretch of the word, which is the whole world right now. Just make something dope that I love and I want to give you the money.
Yeah,
we need a third series called BrotoGP.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do it. All right, everyone. This went way longer than I expected. Someone please give
It was
me
fun.
Never been the title of Rob's sex tape.
Please. That's the only one for the episode. It's Wednesday night. You're gonna catch this a little late. We got MotoGP coming up here at Motegi, and it's probably gonna be cold, and it might actually be wet.
Cold and wet.
Cold and wet. So, catch us next Tuesday or Wednesday with that episode. Thanks for listening. This is only going on YouTube, so like, share, and subscribe. And peace. Later.